drinking some coffee. Um, I want to dedicate this coffee to Flutterbee if she's out there. Hope she's watching. If she's not watching this now, hopefully she'll watch this on the replay. Thank you for buying me a coffee. And this iced coffee is thanks to you. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And I like my coffee iced. This has no cream in it, but has a healthy bit of sugar in it, and I put a little bit of electrolytes in it for my workouts. And we're gonna need it. You know. Let me get myself situated here. Yes, this is my workout outfit. If you guys want to see me looking well coiffed and dressed up for these lives, I'm open to doing that. But that would be depend on more contributions so that I can look suave in these things. But I've put on some relaxing music in the background because this may be a spicy meatball. Okay. We've talked politics twice this week, and we're gonna do it again. But this one in particular won't just be about Kamala Harris. This is a this is gonna be a more general, scathing attack on the whole institution of which she is a part. Yeah, we're gonna go there. And this is fueled by my caffeine, so be prepared. I'm not tired. And before I get into that, I want to say that for my members, if you would like, I did drop a new members only video. It's another fitness related video. And don't worry, for the general viewers, I'm going to drop something for everyone. I've already said that I will be doing a martial arts, like kickboxing sort of fitness routine for you guys. So that's coming. I just want to put it somewhere where I can have some space to do so. Okay. Especially since I won't have a partner. But that's coming. But for my members only, go ahead and you can check out the two videos I've had for members only, which are fitness videos. The first one is a very basic flexibility routine for people. So it should be useful for people of any fitness level. Okay. And the new one that I did earlier today is um, just me doing push-ups. Like I've had people ask me how many push-ups can you do, so I was like, well, let me just randomly do some. So you can watch to see how many I actually did. Spoiler alert is not as many as I wanted to do, but more than what most people can do. I'll leave it at that. And by the way, so I'm just gonna ignore trolls today. Won't acknowledge them. If they do flood the chat, then I'll just time them out or ban them. But I won't be acknowledging anything that any moron says unless they put it in the super chat. If you want to ask me something stupid and unrelated to the topic, you're gonna put it in the super chat. Otherwise, I'm not gonna even acknowledge that you exist because I can fight, so I don't give a fuck what you think. And I live in Baltimore, so you're not gonna come get me. You're not built like that to come to Baltimore. So yeah. In any case, if you want to ask something stupid, put it in the super chat or drop a super sticker or give a super thanks. Other than that, you don't exist. Um, and I'm not gonna feel sorry if you didn't look at the topic before you came in, but I will say it this time and this time only. The topic is about politics. Specifically, the topic is Black Democrats and church leaders are the reason that the black community has failed. So that's what we're doing. Um, and oh, and I should also give a forward. You don't have to be black to be a part of this conversation. However, however, if you don't have, if you're not American, you probably don't have a strong opinion on this one way or the other. If you are American, you'll probably have an opinion on this. So I'm not going to say only black people can talk about this conversation. That's inane. I don't believe in that sort of stuff. Some people do that within the so-called black manosphere. And to be frank, when I first started YouTube, I was going to be all about the black manosphere until realized it was complete rubbish. Like at the time, Kevin Samuels had just passed away when I started my channel. And for some reason, the black manosphere, the black manosphere, decided to have a white female become the leader of the black manosphere. Just pearly things. A white bitch from the Midwest who has never been a part of the black community was became the leader of the black manosphere. That's when I realized they were fugazi and I had no connections to them whatsoever. So I decided my audience will be everyone. I will not um, cater to just one specific niche group of red pill black guys. That's a niche group. I'd rather cater to everyone. Uh, I'm doing well to fades. What's up, Matthew? British are welcome here. I have a lot of British followers. German, Filipino. What I was saying is, you got the folks who aren't from America, or even if you're from America but you're not black and you have no connection to what's going on in the black community, that's completely fine. You are welcome to stay within this chat. I welcome it because maybe you'll learn something. What I'm saying is, go ahead and ask questions. But what I'm saying is, the strongly opinionated people who are going to come in are probably going to be people who are either black or American and have thoughts on the subject. Particularly because I'm going after two particular folks: black Democrats, black Democratic leaders, that is, and church leaders. I think they're the reason why the black community has crumbled. I mean, we have a so-called black presidential nominee. She's not really black. And yes, I will go there. I've done it in previous videos and I'll keep doing it. She's not really black. But in any case, let's assume she's black. She and these other little jigaboo Democrats decided it was completely okay to put on the world stage for someone running for president of the United States, the most powerful position in the world, Megan the Stallion twerking at a presidential rally. So you want across the whole globe people to see some little ratchet bitch shaking her ass to support the presidential nominee, and then wonder why these people come to this country thinking we're all thugs and hoes. Both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King would be rolling in their graves to see this bitch twerking at a presidential rally for the for a black female presidential nominee, even though she's not really black. That gets to the crux of my problem. And then you have these little black church leaders pushing politics in their church which is fine because they've done it for a long time. But then they're alienating the people who don't agree with these views, which is not good because then they're going to make it seem as if they're going against religious doctrine if they don't support these candidates, and I find that problematic. Christopher Triplett says, well, anyway, we're all trespassing on Native American land. That's a good point. However, black people aren't. We're not immigrants. Black people were brought here against their will, either as servants and as either as servants or slaves here, and we're not immigrants. You guys are immigrants. Black people have been here since 1619, since the very founding of this country. 1619, over 400 years. We're not the black immigrants that came later after 1860, the Africans and Caribbeans and Afro Latinos. No, we're foundational black Americans, or ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. We didn't take Native American land. We were brought here across against our will. So your we doesn't include me and the black American community. Sorry. Number one Funketeer says, I've never wondered why because I don't know anyone who thinks that. Fair point. So here, what's up, Essie? He said, I'm Nigerian even if you didn't finish that. I think it broke apart when you were writing your statement. And by the way, I have nothing against black adjacent folks, whether of African, Caribbean, or Afro Latino descent. Nothing against them. My point is they're now foundational black Americans. So when it comes to our social political interests, they don't really have a say. Christopher Triplett says, my people have been here for time immemorial. That's what's up. So you're probably of indigenous origins. I, I have no I have no disagreement with that. My point was that foundational black Americans aren't immigrants, so we didn't trespass. If you kidnap someone, they're not trespassing. So and also um, to piggyback on indigenous people, when we talk about like it's funny in liberal democratic circles, they always see either black people or people of the rainbow crew, the HDTV people, as the victims of society when the most victimized minority groups in America are both the Native Americans and disabled people. Those are the two two most heavily discriminated and oppressed groups in America are Native Americans and disabled. Not black, not Latino, not Asian, not LG, not LGHDTV people or any and or other folks. Um, but getting back to the point, just a guy named Tom says who was kidnapped. Black Americans were kidnapped, bro. I'm sorry that history failed you, but yeah, this has been known since 1619. Since 1619. On top of that, even when the transatlantic slave trade was made illegal, there were two ships, at least two well-known ships that came here after the transatlantic slave trade was closed. But they actually have a whole National Geographic special on the Nat Geo channel, so you can check that out. If you think I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll tell you now, you can always fact check anything that I've ever say on live streams when it comes to intellectual things because I'm a pedantic person, so I won't put anything out there unless it is correct. So you can always fact check me on anything. Um, let me check a few comments. Now I'm gonna get back to what I'm saying. So SA says, even though I am personally not interested in American politics, a lot of Nigerians have strong. Again, you keep cutting off your comments. You're about to say strong views. Again, they can have strong views, but they need to keep it to themselves. SA, I'm gonna be just completely frank about that. And this is what a lot of Black Americans are saying. This is why, when the new U.S. Census comes out in the next year or two, they're allowing Black Americans to separate themselves from people who are of recent African and Caribbean immigration status because we don't identify with them anymore because they haven't identified with us for the longest part, except when it was expedient to do so. Like Obama, he's not black, but it made sense to call himself black, to call himself the first black president. His mom was white. His father was a Kenyan immigrant who went back to Kenya after leaving his mother. Um, the dude grew up in Hawaii, not a place known for black people outside of the military. There's a lot of military installations where you'll find black people, but you're not gonna find a lot of black people living in Hawaii. And if you do, they're gonna be multiracial people like Barack Obama was. He never touched base with the black community until he became a community activist in Chicago to pad his resume to go to Harvard Law. Anyway, let me get to a few comments because I would have get into something first, but I'd rather get to the comments before they get too ahead of me. Um, Number one Funketeer says twerking makes them think hoe, quote unquote, but hanging out with Epstein and cheating with porn star screams, quote unquote, respectable. Miss me with that BS, such double standards. What double standards? What made you think I was defending the other thing? You need to think critically and stop thinking with emotions. Because I've never defended the other thing. I've never defended hanging out with Epstein. I've never defended cheating with porn stars. But that's completely irrelevant anyway. First of all, you're making a straw man argument because I've never argued that those things were okay. And second, that is a red herring because it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about with the black community. You're probably not black, so you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, to be completely frank. I'm talking about what things have destroyed the black community. How does Epstein or someone who cheated with a porn star have anything to do with destroying the black community? That has no relevancy. That is a relevant fallacy. Think critically. Essay says strong opinions on current American politics. I'm just here to learn. That's completely fair, Essay. That's all I was saying. Everybody is welcome to this conversation. I hope people can ask me questions, but as I was saying, the people who have strong views should be the ones who are actually tied into this. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, more than welcome to be a part of this conversation and to ask questions. That's for you and for everyone else. Please ask questions of me or the other people in the chat room. That's how you learn, right? Just a guy named Thompson. There was a blue-eyed white slaves at one point. Also, just so people remember it, dude, stop the bullshit. Stop the lies. Indentured servants are not equal to slaves. I wish y'all stop the bullshit. Stop the bullshit. Stop the bullshit. Stop the bullshit. Were there a few European European slaves? Yes. Very That was a very small amount. Now, if you wanted to talk about European slaves on the other side of the globe, absolutely. But we're talking about American slavery. We are not talking about slavery on the other side of the world. Because if so, then yes, we can definitely talk about how Africans not only enslaved their own people and sold them off to Europeans, they also enslaved their own people and sold them to the to the Arabs. And Africans also enslaved the Europeans and sold them to the Arabs. The Barbary slave trade. Well aware, I'm well aware of that. But we're talking about the American institution of slavery, and we're not going to start up this whole fallacy about the Irish being slaves. That's been debunked so many times. So we're just not going to go there. And technically, no, you're wrong. So Princess Lady, my ADHD says hello. What's up, Princess Lady? Glad to see you back. Christopher's triple says, and I know what it is to be discriminated against like you. Oh, absolutely. Like I said, and for indigenous people, especially those living on reservations, they face a lot of racial oppression and discrimination. On top of that, let's not even talk about what happens when they get into the American legal system and how that's handled, because then you got to go between the the local native police to, if it's like, if it, is a felony or something like that, then who handles it between state police, FBI, or the Department of the Interior folks. That's a quagmire. So, or the fact that non-natives can come onto reservation land and commit crimes, and because of that legal quagmire of who handles what, often will get away with it. They come onto these lands and assault native women, get into like attack things with the men sometimes, as far as violence, and nothing can be done. Not to mention still fighting over legal rights from the 18 literally the 1800s. Like don't get don't get people from like South Dakota or wherever started about the Black Hills, right? Like they have literally turned down millions and millions upon millions of dollars because they want the Black Hills back, because they see it as a religious place, as a spiritual place, not just as a piece of land. Now, I don't completely agree with that, because I think when you are living in the poorest part of America, where you literally don't have running water and kids are starving, maybe you should like compromise somewhere so that you can make sure that your children are provided for. But I get it. They're standing on principles. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to guide this back to what I'm talking about. That basically black democratic leaders and church leaders have destroyed the black community. That's my point today. My topic. How are you? I'm doing fine. This is a spicy topic today, Princess. So be prepared. Just a guy named Tom says, "Dude, trust me, I agree with the hatred for what happened in history, but we all are a part of it." Oh yeah, I don't deny that at all. There's no saints. When you go back far back enough in history, there's no saints outside of a religious context, of course. But I'm talking about in you know factual history about nation building and all that stuff, sort of stuff. Yeah, there's no saints here. I agree with that. He says, as a white guy growing up in Jacksonville, Florida, I've seen more hate over skin than most. It goes both ways. Oh, absolutely. I've said this to a number. I've said this a number of times. I don't know if I said it on video. I probably have in one of my older videos from like 2 years ago. But I've said this to friends all the time, that black people can be just as racist as anybody else, if not more. If you hear like an old black person talk, they are, man. I think I did put that on video. I'm not sure, but yeah, definitely, because people think race is all about a power, um, um, about, yeah, like a power differential. That's only one aspect of racism. The other part of racism is just a sort of ethnocentrism, right? And we're all subject to that. Princess Lee says it's said that the world hates people because their skin color is different. Yeah, I like the differences, but you know, um, Tom also says, also my ancestors commonly came as slaves with my family, has zero generational wealth. So here I am. Yeah, so Tom, don't think I'm going to be one of these pro blackity black guys who's saying it's the white guy's fault for, for the poverty and that all of you are privileged. That's definitely not true. I have family from um, not family, but my my stepfather, his family is from West Virginia. I know what it looks like in Appalachia, which and I'm sure it's similar in parts of Florida as well. I know what it looks like for poor white people in places like Appalachia. That's not privileged. To them, I would be privileged to be sure. But no, so again, my topic here is how the black democratic leaders and black church leaders have destroyed the black community. This is a this will be uncomfortable. The only people that should be uncomfortable with this topic are those very people or the people who support them. But for most people, this shouldn't be that spicy. Other than I'm gonna have a whole bunch of people coming in here who support Harris or 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 whatever, and they're gonna be up in arms against me. But this is not something where I'm throwing shade at white people. I'm not throwing shade at I'm not I'm not blaming all black people for their own problems. No, this is a more nuanced this is a more nuanced attack. I'm saying the reason why the black community is fucked up is because of these self-appointed black Democrat leaders and church leaders. Okay, people like Reverend Clyburn, the senator, what's his name, Senator Reverend Clyburn, or whatever the fuck that dude's name is from North Carolina. That clown. I was gonna say something else with a c word, but I don't want to use that on. I want to use that on YouTube. But this goofball, like, he's the one all hugging up on Joe Biden, calling him Uncle Joe and all this sort of stuff. Like, he might as well be that dude from Django Unchained, played by Samuel Jackson. So how do we as Americans recover? Well, I think we just look reality in his eye. Like, you know how the saying of Nietzsche, sometimes when you stare into the abyss stares back into you. There you go. It's time for uncomfortable. It's time for uncomfortable truths, or like inconvenient truth, like Al Gore used to say. Since we are on Al Gore's internet right now, so most people may miss that joke if they don't remember that from like 24 years ago. But whatever. We're old. Some of us are old school, right? Jacob Siegler says, recover by blaming what people did in the past, get along, and move on. So you're missing what I'm saying, Jacob. This is not. If you focus on what I understand I'm 5 minutes behind the comments. So actually, no, I'm way behind the comments. Sorry. So you probably already caught on to this by the time I'm reading this comment, but this is not blaming people from 200, 300, 400 years ago. I was merely stating the origins of this in this causal chain. I'm not I'm not saying whether the I'm not arguing over the distal causes or the proximal causes. I'm saying where we are at today. So just like when you go into cognitive therapy is not like psychodynamic therapy. Psychodynamic therapy wants you to delve into the origins of your problems, which usually revolve around some childhood trauma, stuff dealing with family, all that sort of stuff. The problem with that, though, with psychodynamic therapy, is that although it does give you insight into your problems, it there's no evidence that having insight into your problems actually treats those actual problems. It may give you insight, but insight alone doesn't treat them. So same thing here. So analogous to that, that's what we're doing here. Yeah, we can talk about the origins of the problems here in America and this racial division, but simply gaining the insight into the origins of those problems aren't going to fix what's currently broken, right? We need to concentrate on what's going on now. Just like in cognitive therapy, we're going to focus on what are the irrational behaviors, the irrational attitudes, the irrational thoughts going on right now that are causing problems in your life today. Analogous to that, we're going to say, okay, yeah, we can acknowledge all that stuff that happened in the past, slavery, wars, genocide, yada, yada, yada. Okay, whatever, cool. Let's concentrate what's going on right now that's problematic. And what I'm saying is problematic right now in the black community are these black Democratic leaders and these black church leaders. For instance, we got Tiffany Henyard in Dalton, Illinois, been robbing that been robbing that city blind of millions of dollars. She's facing a FBI investigation. She's about to get locked up. She's not the only one. Then you had this stupid state's attorney here in Baltimore. What's her name? Mosley. You're a state's attorney. You're like, and you were the most powerful lawyer in Baltimore City, and you commit some felonious acts to get over on like getting like cheap housing or whatever. You know better. You're a lawyer, and you're the most powerful lawyer in the Baltimore City, and you want people to feel bad for you and say, "Oh, well, they just picking on her because she's a black woman." They can't pick on you if you don't do anything wrong, right? So, and a lot of these black Democrats don't have the community's interests at heart. They don't. They've let us down. These church leaders, they're problematic. Why is it every so? I remember this movie called Boys in the Hood. If you guys don't remember Boys in the Hood, the father, Trey Styles, what was it? No, Furious Styles. His son's name was Trey Styles, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., and his father was Furious Styles, played by Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne, sorry. And you know, he was a mouthpiece for a lot of the views of the director and writer John Singleton. He said, "Why do you think there's a liquor store and a gun shop on every block in the hood?" He's like, "Because they want us to kill ourselves." He has a point, but I was like, he missed out on one thing. There's also a black church on every corner too, and they siphon the money from the black community. Like, I used to hate going to church, and they would say it's time for the offering, and all this little shucking and jiving, everyone happy to give away their fucking money. And I was like, these people are idiots. And I'm thinking this at like 9, 10 years old. I'm sorry. This is why I am the religious skeptic I am today, because of this sort of nonsense. Like, I didn't even believe in a Santa Claus when I was little. So I was always of a skeptical mind. But anyway, I remember like my mother giving me money to put in the offering plate. And I'll ask her, like, "Mom, how much should I put in there?" She's like, "Well, you should put in there as much as you think the Lord deserves to get." I'm like, "What the fuck does that even mean?" I was like, "What does a what does a God need with my money?" I Meanwhile, I could use it. I could go buy me a new GI Joe action figure, buy me a new, you know, save up some of my offerings and get me a transformer. That'll be useful. Maybe I want to buy some books in the new bookathon that comes to school. But I'm supposed to give up my money to some being that I've never had contact with because it's the right thing to do, so that I look so that it looks well upon my mother when everyone's passing the plate down the fucking bench aisle. Ugh, miss me with that shit. Meanwhile, the pastor and the deacon are making loads of money where they can send their kids off to private schools and off to college while we're still in the hood. So let me get back to the comments. But I think I answered Jacob's point. Tom says we bought them that in itself is wrong. I agree, but I feel like we are stuck in a circle of hate. How do we grow? We acknowledge it. We acknowledge how we feel about each other, and we say why we feel that way to each other, so that we can confront it. If people think a certain way in the dark, how do you can't challenge it? Views should be challenged, whether right or wrong. Views that views that are challenged that are wrong get corrected in the light of evidence. Views that are right that are challenged are strengthened. Um, in what we call epistemic holism, which is a fancy word for saying that we use, we should test all our claims. Um, it's the fact of the matter that in the light of evidence, almost every belief can be changed or modified or corrected. So I don't know what Yeef is talking about, but okay. Tom says, "LOL, them old men and women don't care. They gonna say whatever." I love it. Them though. Yeah, they can go too far though, and I'm gonna get to that point. By the way, that was something that was a point I was about to lead to, but it would have been kind of tangential to what I was about to say, so I'll leave that for later. But no, old old people, they get some grace. They get some grace, but they can they can they can they can abuse that grace that they're given. Sipping Red Lane says, "All right, I'm not going to even acknowledge that since that's not part of the topic, but that is funny. I'll even if he's trolling, that if you're going to troll, that's how you do it. I don't care if you troll as long as it's funny. That's actually kind of funny." Tom says, "No, the white man messing up though." Uh-oh, Princess Lady's getting into it too. Y'all don't mess with my Princess Lady. She's British. He's about. She says, "Sipping, you took money for cheating. I took nuclear revenge." Uh-oh. I mean, at least if look. All right, I'm gonna dip into this just because it's getting funny. Look, at least if you go to steal money or do whatever, at least put it down in a sack first. It's like pipe her down well, like Super Smash Brothers. Then it won't be so bad. She'd be like, "All right, he stole from me, but he's giving me some good loving." So, eh. Anyway, we're getting back to the topic. Blame says, "Where is he from?" The clown. NC. Reverend, so Reverend Clyburn, I think it's North Carolina, but I could be wrong. It could be South Carolina. I hate confusing the two. Like, for instance, I thought my mother's side of the family was from North Carolina, but it's actually from South Carolina that they're from. One of those, one of those places they brought the black people to. Um, because I thought we were part of from one of those areas where the Geechee Gullah live, but I don't think so. From the town that was my grandmother named, I forgot, but it's not the area where the Geechee Gullah live. in South Carolina and in parts of North Carolina too, I think. But anyway, I don't know what district Reverend Clyburn is, but he's the one that kind of was the kingmaker for Biden back in 2020. He wants to pretend like where he's all for black people, but he's against things that the black community has been asking for. So he, to me, he's a clown. Or you could spell it Coon, but I don't want to say that word. um, Princess Lady was saying to Yeef in a conversation that I only got my money that was owed to me from my ex and had to get police involved because the girl I caught him with was my ex best friend. She started hitting herself, saying, "If you don't leave, I'll call the police and tell them you hit me," and then started hitting herself and biting herself. Ugh, yeah, that's crazy. Princess Lady, what was your ex? And you don't have to answer this. Was your ex black, white, other? Blender says, "Why is the chat arguing? You both are on someone else's live." Man, that happens. You'd be surprised. But they aren't arguing. I think they're like, I don't know. But Princess Lady says we aren't arguing with. We're just talking. He said, "Oh, I got you. I missed it. I missed a lot. My bad." But we're gonna get back to the topic, guys. So I'm a rein it in. So you guys can keep talking about that if you like. But um, I'm gonna get back to this subject. So in the same way, like I said, Furious Styles and Boys in the Hood was teaching the teenagers that certain things were put in lower income black communities to to proffer their self destruction, which is a contentious claim at best, right? I would say that these black churches definitely contribute to that as well. Like I said, they siphon money from the black community. The money that parents should be either saving or investing or putting into their children go into these people's collection plates every Sunday. And sometimes on other days besides Sunday. And it's not recycled back into the community. It usually goes to these families, the families of these pastors and deacons and church elders, but mainly just the pastors and the deacons, right? And then it tends not to be recycled back into the black community because these same pastors and deacons don't even live in those same communities. They live in the suburbs, and the suburb may be a black suburb or it may not be, but either way, that money is drained from those lower income black communities. Whereas in other minority conclaves of the inner city, their money is recycled numerous times before it leaves the community. So in lower income communities of the city where you might have like Latinos or Asians or people of Middle Eastern or South Asian descent, that money is usually recycled two, three, four times before it leaves that community. Whereas with these lower income black communities, it, it'd be lucky if it was recycled once through that community before it leaves. So it's economic. So these churches lead to an economic drain in the community. Plus, they offer people pie in the sky when they should be teaching them to be getting theirs right here and right now, like everyone else is doing. Instead, these people are throwing away their money, throwing away money to the future of their children, and feeling good about it because they just know they're arriving at some sort of eternal bliss when they die. So they're willing to forego their life as it is now for some proposed eternal bliss later on in the hereafter. That's fucking nuts. And that's not to challenge people's religious beliefs. That's just to say, okay, that's all well and good if you want to stock your stock yourself for the future hereafter, assuming there's one, according to your beliefs, fine. But that doesn't mean you should neglect making the most of what you have here. So, and these black churches don't care. Meanwhile, they're prospering. They're living in very nice places, sending their kids off to nice schools while you're stuck in the hood, but you feel good because you gave away $50 of your hard earned cash on Sunday to some schmuck who gave a really good theatrical sermon. All right, Randy is gone. He's not going to disturb my followers. And you should kind of concentrate on what the topic is because you're derailing the topic by talking about other stuff. It was funny. It was cool. Whatever. Let's move on, please. Because oh, he was white. Punched this lady, and I, I don't think we discussed it the other day, but I believe you're white as well, right? By the way, if you speak with Flutterby, tell her I got a new members only video up because I don't think people. I think a lot of you weren't on here when I said that earlier in the beginning of the video of this well the stream that I do have a new members only video up, another fitness related video. She just be right back. Just gonna get my nephew back off the bed and get some lemon mint water. Hey, Miss Needle. Miss Needle says you talking about mega churches or churches saying you gotta pay us money to get to heaven. Oh, I haven't even gotten to the mega churches yet, Miss Needle. They're worse. They are worse actually. That's when you talking about the Bishop T.D. Jakes going around talking about I like to be swallowed. I like to be swallowed. No Diddy, but yeah, that's what Bishop Jakes does. Not only that, Bishop T.D. Jakes, Bishop T.D. Jakes, a freaking church bishop, goes to Puff Daddy parties. He goes to Diddy parties. What self-respecting bishop goes to Diddy parties? So just stand by before I pass out super tired. Yeah, I was trying to reach you earlier. Um, I figured you was already knocked out. Yep, there's some new people here, Miss Needle. Um, you gotta meet the British lady Flutterby when she's back, and Princess Lady, both from both from the UK. Oh, you ripped out the carpet? Like you physically ripped out the carpet? Because I know you were talking about that. Because that almost became like a dirty joke, and I was like, I'm not going there. So, um, but yeah, no, I used to because I used to do carpet and tile in college, and that's laborious work, and we were guys, so I imagine as small as you are, you doing that. Like, I hope you had a guy helping you do that. That is laborious. And we're just talking about in dorms, so I can imagine like doing it in like a huge like something larger than a dorm room, having to do all that sort of stuff. So, because we were our our well our department carpet and tile worked for like the college the campus housing department on campus. So. Again, shout out to Miss Flutterby for buying me a coffee. Straight no chaser. I'm playing. It's just iced coffee with a little bit of electrolyte flavoring to it. But yeah, back to the subject. I think I lost a lot of people. So, 10 Mans is Tennessee in the building. What's up? So yeah, getting back to my topic, like I said, I fault black Democratic leaders and black church leaders for the denigration of the black community currently. Oh yeah, I told you I'm always drinking coffee. You thought I was joking. I'm literally always drinking coffee until a certain point in the day. Once it starts to get dark, I stop drinking coffee. At least, well, during the summer and spring months, like in the fall and winter when it's dark, I'm still gonna probably be drinking coffee because I can metabolize it pretty quickly, so it doesn't keep me up at night. Like some people can't drink coffee after 5 p.m. because their body doesn't metabolize it well, so it'll keep them up all night. I can drink this stuff up to like 9 p.m. and still be good. Probably later than that if I have to. But any case, so like I said, guys, the reason for my topic is that I'm checking out snippets of what's going on in the Democratic National Convention, and all these people signifying and testifying like they're at church over Kamala Harris, a woman who, let's let's face it, is not genuinely a black woman. Regardless of what you say or think, she has she has no ancestry to foundational black Americans. Um, and two, even if she were, she doesn't represent our interests. A lot of these black Democrats don't. A lot of them are crooked. Like I said, between Marilyn Mosby here in Baltimore, who was the former state's attorney, who's now facing some rather stringent legal sentencing because of her crimes, or Tiffany Henyard in Dalton, Illinois, who's the mayor there. Well, let's not forget that Detroit mayor a few years ago, who was also corrupt. Let's not let's not forget the infamous the infamous Marion Marion Barry of D.C. back in the 90s. I remember as a kid, because I used to live in the D.C. suburbs. I moved out from Baltimore to the D.C. suburbs, lived with my father. I remember watching the evening news, and they showing this man on camera smoking crack with a whore, or what he thought was a whore, and it was actually an undercover cop or whatever. And he was like, "The bitch set me up." He literally said that, and this became the largest joke. And DC people hated when people outside of DC always made fun of them for Marion Barry, because we used to say, "You guys had a crackhead mayor." These black Democratic leaders are the fucking worst. Not gonna go on that stupid ass mayor in New York City right now. He was all for uh, immigrants having um, illegal immigrants having these little sanctuary cities, into people from Texas and Florida bust their asses out to New York City. And when they did, they just let these people run rampant. They can beat up cops. They can ass- assault women. They're given huge amounts of money that they denied to the very people in those same communities who've been living there and had financial needs for. Um, Miss News has crooks in every corner. True. She said, "Don't they all got dirt on them?" Uh, that's what I'm saying. Well, a lot of them do have a lot of them are facing political corruption issues. Like I said, the former state's attorney, this black woman named, and a lot of them are black women too, by the way. But there's black men as well doing it. But these black Democratic leaders, a lot of them are full of shit. Like Marilyn Mosby, the state's attorney for Baltimore, Mayor Tiffany Henyard in Dalton, Illinois, that mayor of Detroit back in the day, um, DC crackhead Mayor Marion Barry, um, the the dumb chick here in Baltimore. It was two of them. One was what, Catherine Pugh or whatever, and I forgot the other one. Both facing corruption and charges and stuff like that. Um, and there's so many other ones to name. Then I said, look at that little idiot Reverend Clyburn who backed Biden's ascension to become the presidential nominee back in 2020, when at the time Bernie Sanders was at the lead. When he when when the, when the Democratic National Committee saw that Bernie was going to become the possible front runner because he had already won two caucuses or whatever, all the other people in the primary dropped out to back Biden so that he would get all those numbers, because it was better for them all to fall back and back him than to have an anti-establishment person like Bernie Sanders win the Democratic nominee, because they wouldn't be able to control him. The same reason the Republicans back in 2016 tried to keep Trump from becoming the nominee. They all wanted Jeb Bush, George Bush's brother, to become the, the front runner, because they knew that Trump was an iconoclast. He wasn't going to be someone that would just fall neatly into the establishment. Now, I think their fears were unwarranted, because largely most of his administration did fall in line with the Republican, with most of the Republican policies at the time. But it's still the fact that he can't be controlled by them. So, Miss Nia says the honest ones don't make it far. Um, Sometimes it depends. I think what happens with the honest ones is they probably move on to other parts of of public service outside of politics. Because you can still be a public servant without being in politics. Like Mayor Kurt Schmoke of Baltimore from the 80s, he moved on and became a professor at the University of Baltimore Law. I don't remember, but I was young. I don't remember him facing a lot of corruption issues. Or Mayor Washington of Chicago. I think he was the first black mayor of Chicago. I don't remember him having huge corruption issues either. So it's not all of them, but nowadays it's enough of them to see they're not helping us. They're they're not like us. To quote Kendrick Lamar. And Blame Dirty says mayor in Chicago is in trouble. They are looking for that 500 million spent on a sanctuary city. See, yeah. Miss Nina says Blame Dirty. Well, nothing can stay hidden forever. It will come to light eventually. Well, that's the old saying. The that the daughter of time is truth. So we'll see. But like I said, that one mayor, Tiffany Henyard in Dalton, Illinois, which is outside of Chicago, she's facing a whole bunch of stuff because it looked like she stole millions from both Dalton and the township that's aligned with it. That she's also, I think she's like the executive or whatever of the township there. And it's like every time you always hear of corruption with some sort of black political leader, there's always a Democratic leader. You rarely hear this about black Republican leaders. It's usually almost about black Democratic leaders. They fleece the black community, and then the very community that they've been fleecing, they turn they turn back to them for support and say, "Oh, see, they just coming after me because I'm black. You see what they do to us guys? You see how they treat us?" Like, no, you're a fucking criminal. You're doing corrupt shit. You you're doing this shit for your own betterment. You're not doing this for the black community. You're not getting into trouble for the black community. You're doing it to you know fatten your own pockets. And now you want that same community that you've been destroying by taking money from them. Now you want them to give you uh, moral or legal support in your um, in your fight against the establishment because you've been called out on your shit. Nah. And these church leaders too. Like I said, like Bishop put it in his ass, TD Jakes going to Diddy parties. These mega like these mega churches that Miss Needle talk about. Oh, these mega churches. So they're worse than the your local corner store, not corner store, your local your local church on in the hood. These churches amass millions upon millions of dollars, um, and they're both in white communities and black communities. But since I'm talking about the black community here, I'm talking about these mega churches in the black communities. All these big AME, Zion, Bethel churches with the pastor, Doctor, Reverend, such and such the third, because they're usually like some AME church or Episcopal church or something like that, and they're these mega churches where you can watch them. You don't even have to go to the church. You can watch them online. They'll live stream from YouTube, or they may even be like on a local cable channel, or you can buy their DVDs if you come to church and there's no places close to the pulpit. You might be in some nosebleed section where they have TVs up so that you can see everything going on down at the pulpit, and they have these huge um, they have these very organized huge arrangements to gather money from people. No longer do you have to just put money and change in a collection plate. You can put checks. You can put checks in an envelope and give it to them, or you can cash app the you can cash app them or Venmo them. And if you can't make it to one service, oh, they got another one later in another part of the city, or later on that day at the same church. And if you can't make it then maybe you can come on a Thursday evening or Wednesday evening, and they have training for people who want to become elders of the church. It's, they're as bad as cults, these mega churches. And like I said, the reason why I hate the mega churches in the black community worse than the ones in the white communities, because these black communities are poorer on average than these white communities, and so it hurts more when their money is taken because they can generate less of that income than some of these higher income communities. Miss Nita says the true church is not a building; it's a community of true believers. Uh, and mega churches are not only cashing in; um, they lead millions astray. True. As she says, I've heard of stories in those churches how they supposedly abuse new people, like making them work for free and treating them like slaves while enriching themselves. Yeah, these are the people they call church elders, Miss Needle. These are basically they put these people in of positions of power in the church, which gives them a sense of entitlement without actually having to pay them anything for taking on responsibilities. and these people feel a sense of importance. My mother's one of these church elders at her church. Like I said, they don't get paid anything to be church elder. They're just given these positions to do things to make them feel important. Who gives a F? How is that helping their community? How is it helping those elders' families? Meanwhile, she's a church elder, but one of her children, and there's only two of us, one of her children is a drug addict with two children who are probably not gonna make it through high school. Hint, hint, it's not me. Meanwhile, I'm also treated. I'm not gonna even go there, but yeah, what's the point of all that stuff? Being a church elder and doing all this sort of stuff to better the church if it doesn't translate to helping you in your own personal life and your family's life. These mega churches are full of crap. And again, a lot of these black churches and black democratic leaders coalesce together. Every time when Obama was in office, like, was it 15 years ago now? Or, well, it hasn't been that long, but like back during his second term, when he was faltering, in public, in the public opinion polls on his, for support for some of his policies, he would fall back on the black church. He would go to this one in Atlanta, Georgia. Mind you, in his own words, in his autobiography, he claimed he was agnostic and made fun of church going people, and his mother said that wasn't nice. Um, so maybe he grew out of his agnosticism once he became an older person or whatever. Or maybe like a lot of people, it became politically expedient to come under a an organized church, just like it was kind of expedient for him to have a black wife when he dated nothing but pretty much white women his whole entire life. But whatever. I won't go there right now with him and Michelle. But um, he would go to this little mega church in Atlanta, Georgia, come in there singing and shucking and jiving to get all these black people like, ooh, that's my Obama. That's why all these old people now have a portrait of Obama on their walls. And I'm not even kidding, because if you guys have seen my previous live streams, I've literally showed you the picture of Obama on my grandmother's wall. And like I said, even black comedians have mentioned it. Like Chris Rock has said, nowadays he said you go to Mama's house, Big Mama, and you see on the wall it's a picture of Jesus, picture of Martin Luther King, and then a picture of Obama. um, Miss Neal says you should practice what you preach. I agree. I agree. Blame Dirty says they really should. Miss Needle. She says especially loving the lost and reaching out to those struggling. That's what Christians are called to do. Have a heart and reach out to those and lift them up. The sick, the homeless, addicted. Everyone should be welcome. Yeah. Well, mind you, so in my family situation, no one shuns my sister. The problem with her is that she's become, because of her problem, she's become a social recluse. Did I say that right? And when you look at it, she looks like one of those junkies you see in the inner city. Like I've literally had a friend point that out. He said, "Man, I don't want to be mean, but," I was like, "Nah, go ahead." I was like, "Just say what you gotta say." He's like, "Yo, she looks like one of those junkies you see in the city." I was like, "Oh, I know." I said, "I'm pretty sure everyone can see it, but no one wants to say anything." And I was like, the fact that my mother will defend her when anyone says something, is enabling her, is enabling my sister's addiction. Like if you're gonna go off and be ready to bite someone's head off anytime someone mentions something about your precious daughter, who's a fucking junkie, who neglects her children, um, then you're enabling her. And what makes it weird and also kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie, is that she drives around in a Lexus, and my friend was like, "That's funny as shit." He's like, "Meanwhile, here I am, like, I'm a six-figure earner, and I'm in a modest vehicle, a Toyota Camry, and you got a junkie who barely makes that much money driving around in a Lexus." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." I was like, I don't even have a car." I said because I actively chose not to get a car several years ago because I was like, I'd rather save my money for traveling, and I know a car would just be a money pit between gas, maintenance, and insurance. That's money that could be going to flights or going to doing things with Mrs. Contrarian. I said when I do get a car, it's going to be over there in the Philippines where she can take advantage of the car. Because more than likely, I don't want to even drive in Manila traffic. I'll just take a Grab. A Grab is their version of Uber. Actually, Uber sits on their executive board because there used to be Uber in Philippines and Thailand and Indonesia and Malaysia, all those places, and Uber has pretty much bought out all the former Uber stuff out there. But as a result, Uber sits on their executive board, so they still are a part of Grab and run very similarly, but you have to download a separate app for that. Any case, I'd rather take a Grab ride or Uber ride than drive through Manila traffic. So I'll be more than happy to buy her a car and let her drive it most of the time, and I'll just drive it if she wants if she's too tired. But I'm not pressed. Meanwhile, like I said, my sister has a part-time job at some retail store and has a Lexus, but doesn't take care of her children. One who's already been kicked out of high school, another one who's probably gonna be pregnant within a year or two. Um, she sits out all day just smoking weed, and yeah, I know weed, recreational marijuana is legal here now in Maryland, but why are you just sitting outside all day just smoking weed when she's not doing other stuff? Because weed does not make you look like you just turned into Pookie from New Jack City. She should be more concentrated on that than dealing with what's going on at her little mega church. That mega church isn't doing anything for us. um, Miss Neal says breaks my heart to hear. I'll pray for her. Nobody's too far gone for Jesus. That's why I believe. That's what I believe. Uh, you gotta want to make the change though. You can't force people to get sober. Well, yes and no. You right. You can't force them, but you can make them go to rehabilitation. You can put them in drug rehab. But to sit there and just pretend it's not happening and then uh, verbally attack anyone who mentions anything, so no one will say anything to my mother because they know she's how vindictive she is. So if you like you walk into the house and you smell marijuana as soon as you walk in, that's not cool. She don't know. This is, they don't know who might be walking into the house, and then the house looks like a fucking trap house, like a crack house because everything's strewn everywhere. I'm like, I would clean up as much as I could, but like, I'm not cleaning up their mess. Just not. And I'm not gonna get too deep into that because I'm not gonna reveal too much. So people always saying, "Oh, why are you always giving away all this stuff about your family?" Trust me, I'm not giving away as much as you think I am because there's way more I could go into. I just don't go there. The stuff I do give you though are solid nuggets, and I'm not capping on anything that I'm talking about here. I'm not lying. And yes, it's sad, but she's enabling it. And while you can't force someone to get sober, you can put them out. You can you don't have to just let someone stay in your house abusing drugs. Not to mention that's bringing danger to the house. If someone's dabbling in illegal drugs, they have to do it through criminals, right? What if those people decide to come to the house because she didn't pay them? Then I have to, now I got to defend everyone, right? Yeah, okay. Notice I'm not there, right? There's reasons for that that I'm not getting into right now. But um, it's a danger. Like when she has these weird people coming over the house late at night, probably to for the exchange of drugs or whatever. That's not good. That's unsafe. She's putting everyone in the house at danger. Um, and in Baltimore, most of the street level drugs are laced with something, usually fentanyl. She might one day get a hot dose and die from it. Then what? She's gonna look, knowing my mother, she's gonna look for someone to blame, but she'll need to be blaming herself because she enabled it. Because it's not like my sister has the money to clean her drugs before she uses it. So she's taking street level drugs, which, like I said, is almost guaranteed to be laced with something in Baltimore. Because I've talked with street level drug dealers whom I've worked with at call centers, and they told me they was like, Amon, they was like, yo, they was like, I'm gonna tell you, they was like, I'm gonna tell you, they was like, I'm not even buying it if it's not already laced, because he was like, I was like, but ain't that dangerous? He's like, nah, he said, nah, the fiends actually want it. I'm like, damn. I was like, so they actually want that? He's like, yeah, because it's strong. He's like, it's stronger, so it gets them high. He said it gets them more high for longer. I'm like, I see. But I didn't want to go there. I was about to ask him, well, what about the ones who don't want it? But I'm not going. I wasn't going there with them. But yeah, and I'm not. And even the marijuana is laced with stuff here. Well, back in the day, back in the '90s in DC, they used to lace weed with PCP, and people from the DC, Virginia area know exactly what I'm talking about. They used to call it boats or love boats. And everyone I know who smoked these love boats, this weed laced with PCP, none of these people are the same again. Like there's something off about every person I've met who've smoked these so-called love boats from people people from DC know what I'm talking about. Or people in law enforcement probably know what I'm talking about too. For any of my law enforcement people who's watching. But yeah, again, just to go back to Miss Needle's point, you can't force someone to get sober, but you don't have to enable them either. You can put them out your house and say, until you clean up, you're gonna have to live somewhere else. So either they make steps to go into rehab or whatever, or they're on their own, but they shouldn't be dragging the rest of the family down with them. I mean, at this point, my mother's already taking care of my sister's kids anyway, so my sister is an unnecessary part of the equation and keeping those kids safe and going to school. She needs to go to rehab because you're going to pay for it at one and the other. You pay for her to go to rehab, or you're going to pay for her medical bills later. She's already having like huge medical problems now, and she's only 37. No one at 37 should be looking this sickly. Like she looks older than me, and I'm 46. She's my kid's sister. So, um, Miss Nita says addiction doesn't come out of thin air. There's always reasons, and it's easy to spiral down that route. And on the streets, they lace the stuff, makes it worse. Yep. So what I'm saying, so it was. So here's the thing with the addiction, Miss Nita. So addictions, uh, so addictions are actual mental health illnesses. So you have to have a genetic predisposition to substance abuse, because these addictions can come in different ways. You know, the addiction may come in the form of alcohol. It can come in the form of illicit drugs, but it's all like revolving around some sort of substance abuse. Like I said, whether alcohol or drugs or something else related to substances, right? So, like most mental health, like, well, not most, like all mental health illnesses, there's a genetic predisposition to it. Now, I think what you're saying is, was there some sort of psychological trigger to it? I can't say because I don't know when she started using, but I know that my stepfather, her biological father, died when she was young, and that may have been a part of when she started acting up because she was not doing well in school as well. She dropped out of high school. Like, I've told this story a number of times on the live stream, so no need to repeat that here. Um, what am I going to say about that? Um, she smokes like a chimney. Like, she's, like I said, when she's not smoking weed, she's smoking cigarettes. And that's usually a sign of an addict. Like, usually they to get between, from what I've seen, they get between their highs by using cigarettes and weed to like kind of fill in the the gap between one high to the next. And I can tell when she's coming off a high because she'll get up early in the, like, she'll get up in the morning and be just bitter and angry for no reason, like cussing at the children, hitting them, stuff like that. And I'm like, why is she acting like that? And I asked a friend of mine who's had some substance abuse issues as well, um, a guy whom I used to work with. He was like, "Oh man, that's the classic sign of someone who, who's like a, someone addicted to dope." I was like, "Oh." He's like, "Yeah." He said, "Man," he said, they are really nasty coming off their high." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that explains it. Because she would just be a completely different person. But um, yeah, it's tragic. But if you're asking where the psychological trigger that started her addiction, I can't say. Like I said, like all addictions, there's a component of it that is genetic. And that's not saying that everyone who has a genetic predisposition to addiction will obviously become an addict. It doesn't work that way. I'm just saying that there has to be there's usually some sort of trauma or stress or something that may trigger that that addiction. Because here's the other thing: there's some people who can use recreational drugs and not get addicted to them because they don't have that predisposition to being an addict. For an addiction. So some people can recreationally use coke or weed or even dope without getting hooked on it, whereas other people might use it for one time and they're completely hooked. And that's because they have a genetic predisposition to it. That genetic predisposition to it means they're going to actually have these neurotransmitters in their brain that respond to these drugs, whether it's cocaine, whether it's heroin, marijuana, and other other types of drugs, PCP, LSD, um, MDMA, and so on. Um, I don't know what caused her to spiral down. Honestly, like I said, I think part of it was when her father died. But again, you would think that would make her not want to be abuse substances because he died of emphysema from smoking all his life. I remember once we were in a car as kids and he was smoking. And I rolled the window down. He was like, "Roll that window up. It's cold out there." I was like, "It's too smoky in here. I can't breathe." I was like, I'm not trying to die young. I think I said something stupid like that. I was like, "You gotta forgive me. I'm like 9 or 10 years old, or 11, not 9, 10, 11 years old." He was like, he's like, he's like, so what? He's everyone's gonna die at some point anyway. I'm like, okay. So we just had to suffer. So driving with him, we had to just suffer with the windows rolled up, with the entire car just smelling of like cheap cigarettes. Definitely wasn't healthy for young kids. And like I said, he had actually given up smoking a year or two before he died, but by that time it was too late. He's had like over 30 years of smoking, and so he died of emphysema. You would think because of that she wouldn't be smoking like a chimney, but she smokes all day long, whether it's weed or cigarettes, and she gets high. Now she has huge health problems. She looks like she looks like a a junkie from the projects. If you look at her, like, you shouldn't be. It shouldn't. It's like 90-degree weather, and you're wearing like sweat, like a hoodie and sweatpants. And even in the house, while we're all like enjoying air conditioning, she has the heater on. Anyway, enough of that. Miss Neal says she's probably hurting very much in her soul. Rehab won't do anything. They will relapse as soon as they get out to the same people, same circumstances. You gotta want to get sober and know what you do it for. You gotta have that focus. Rehab treats symptoms. You gotta dig up the roots of the addiction. Codependency is a whole other problem. Yeah, I agree. It's in a peptide or something I read that makes people susceptible to certain substances, but still the neuroscience is still not clear why people find one thing addictive but not another, because there's a genetic predisposition to it. That's why some people may be addicted to some substances where others won't be. Genetic predisposition to it. So again, she my point is, my mother being a church elder, she should be more worried about her own family's prospering than that of a church. But maybe she feels more in control of what she can do at the church as opposed to what she can do in her own house. That's a problem. Like I said, you got a grandson who goes around stealing. Well, actually, no, both of them do. It's so bad that my niece, her granddaughter, isn't allowed here at this house upstairs by herself because she's stolen from my grandmother, who is her great grandmother. Who the F steals from their great grandmother? Who steals from Big Mama? I've never heard of anyone stealing from Big Mama. That's some degenerate shit. And matter of fact, when I was when I was upgrading the Wi-Fi in the house for my grandmother, like 2 months ago, um, she was using the names of my niece and nephew to remember them for her password. I changed that shit. Like, they don't even regard her highly, and she's using them. She's like, well, I always remember their names. I'm like, no. I was like, here. I said, from now on, the username is your name, Grandma. This is the username for the Wi-Fi, um, and the internet. This is your name, so you can't forget it because it's your name as the username, and the password is the name of this neighborhood, so you can't forget those. So, because my niece and nephew are ratchet, and like I said, one of them is gonna end up pregnant within like five. Well, I predict a few years because she's already doing ratchet ratchet shit because she wants to listen to all these little struggle rappers like Sexy Red and Ice Spice and Megan the male rapping horse from Houston. who Kamala Harris decided to have at her presidential rally. Like you're the first. Let's okay. So let's say she is the actual black female, which she isn't. You're the first black female president, and you decide at your presidential rally, which will be seen in across the entire world, to have some black bitch singing porn lace lyrics and twerking. That's the image you want of black women for the entire globe to see. For the first black female to come into office as a president, that's what you're putting out there. That's crazy. If I can say one positive thing about Obama, he did not he did not put up with the ratchetness. He was cool with Jay-Z, like he liked Jay-Z music and he had rappers come to the White House, but there weren't people coming there doing but the type of rappers he had at the White House, they weren't like drill rappers. They weren't doing trap music. Um, Miss Nino says she might forget if she gets Alzheimer's, but let's hope not. Well, yeah, anyone can, but at least she's like what I'm saying is the stuff that I gave her though is her name, so it's gonna be not it's gonna be hard for her to forget. Plus, we wrote it down for her, so she'll be able to find it, and we can be able to find it for her since I actually changed it. So she should be good because we know it. Princess Lady says, "I'm back. My nephew is hungry. No problem." Oh, Princess Lady meet Miss Needle. Miss Needle, Princess Lady. Princess Lady says, "Thanks, hon." You know the part of Baltimore. Well, Paul. So I think the original, the original people to arrive in Baltimore from Britain. I think they came from a particular part of Britain where they brought in a lot of those Britishisms, like saying "Hey, hun," like that can be that Baltimore that Baltimore dialect can be traced to a specific part of the UK, but I can't remember what part. Uh, she said, "Who's got Alzheimer's?" No one, luckily. We were talking about my grandmother and talking about how I had, you know, changed her Wi-Fi password and stuff like that so that she could more easily remember it because it was in my. She said it was in my niece and nephew's name, but she didn't remember how it was how it was written out since the passwords have to be exact. So I was like, no, we're gonna just make this easy. So I just made the username of her Wi-Fi her actual name, and I made the password the name of the area in this in the Baltimore suburbs we're living in, without having special special characters and numbers and all that BS that they always try to get you to do. I made it simple. And Miss Needle says, yeah, it's a horrible disease. Absolutely. My other grandmother died of dementia. I don't know whether it was Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, but it was hard to see that. My grandfather, as well, was suffering dementia when he died. But I don't think it was the dementia alone that killed him. It was also, I think he came down with COVID 2 years ago. Uh, Princess Lisa is very sad to as well to watch them become like that. Yeah, that's true. She said my mom's good friend, her son is 28. He's got Alzheimer's. Wow, that's sad. See, and that's the difference between Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. Some forms of dementia are just um, age related dementia, but Alzheimer's isn't necessarily it is age related, but it doesn't have to be. I think it can start like in people's like 20s and 30s, whereas most dementia usually starts in people's later years, you know, at the end stage of their um, middle years. So like once you hit like 60 and so forth, which is a good reason to stay fit because staying fit reduces those those plaques that infect the brain that can lead to dementia. Miss Needle says, Princess, yes, it is truly heartbreaking. Any kind of degenerative disease like that is a cruel, slow, cruel process. Um, this is so much patience is needed with Alzheimer's. So much patience. Miss Needle said, I saw a video today that mitonazole, an antifungal, might help to stop or slow such disease. I found it interesting. Oh, so yeah, so for you with the antifungal stuff, I guess that would be something you would have to look into. But anyway, guys, so we're going far straight from my original topic, which I knew that was probably going to happen because I don't have like a huge like pro blackity black crowd in here. But if I did, a lot of them would be up in arms against me anyway. Because no, you're fine. Because like I said, a lot of the black community is still heavily very democratic and very very Christian. And I don't have anything against neither Christians nor Democrats, but like I said, they will probably not agree with me that I'm saying that black democratic leaders and black church leaders have led to the crisis in the black community because they're not helping, they're hurting it. Like I said, these black churches are siphoning money from the black community where it's not recycled back into the black community. Instead, it goes, if at best, it's recycled once before it goes off into the mainstream communities. And also, like I said, these black Democrats aren't really doing much for black people. They're more worried about doing stuff for immigrants. They're worried about doing stuff for the LGBTQ community. They even did stuff for Asians and didn't do anything for black people. Kamala said like what was it, like about 2 years ago. She's like, well, we're not just here to do stuff for the black community. Yet the black community back in 2020, when they voted for Biden, asked that man to pass a anti-black racist crime hate bill. He didn't even try before he gave up on that. But 1 year into the pandemic, when Asians were being harassed and bullied and mistreated and all sorts of violence going on across the country as a reflection of people's like anxiety about the pandemic and its origins, they passed the anti-Asian racist crime hate bill, which not only gave um, the police the ability to prevent such violence, but also it meant that even like in public forums like online, you can't say certain stuff against them, which I'm not against. But again, when black people asked for it, they said, "Oh well, we're not just going to do stuff just for black people." But the black people are like they're one of the biggest voting blocks in the Democratic Party. Um, Give me 1 second, guys. Let me check something. Oh, by the way, can you guys hear the music in the background? So most Christian people you see are all on the conservative side. Yes and no. That's true. Well, if you're talking about fundamentalist Christians, then yes, ev- evangelical and fundamentalist Christians are. are yes socially conservative, but not all of them are. Not all Christians are. Most of them are moderates. So since the majority of the population is are Christian in the U.S. and also most people are politically moderate in the U.S., it stands to reason that both it stands to reason that most Christians are also political moderates. But of course, the loudest voices, the most extreme voices, are the ones that people often hear. So um, when you see these evangelicals and fundamentalists online, they may give the misrepresentation that that's how all Christians are because they're the loudest voices that people can see. I mean, or hear, rather. But, and I'm saying this as someone who isn't Christian. Princess Lady says there was a video of a young teen who hit an elder Sikh man, and if I'm correct, took his turban off. So yeah, that's messed up. See, he don't know that Sikh man might have been able to fight. People need to leave people alone just because they're different. Different doesn't mean they can't fight. Being different doesn't mean he's not packing heat. Well, maybe in Britain, well, in the UK, he won't be packing heat, but here, yeah, they everyone's packing heat here. You never know. It's best to leave people alone here in America because you don't know who might be having. You don't know who might have concealed carry. Like I'm considering getting concealed carry, even though I'm gonna move out of the states pretty soon. But I keep having friends say, "Man, you're a veteran. Just get your concealed carry because it's not like you even have to take a class for it. You literally just put in the application. They do the background check, come back, and you got your concealed carry permit. It's not so. It's not. That's what I'm not worried about. The point is, I don't want to stock up on weapons because I can't take them with me overseas. So, although the concealed carry permit would be fine and dandy to have here, one, I can't use it over there, and two, all the weapons that I would buy here would be a waste of money because I can't take them with me. I would have to sell them. I would have to sell them once I leave here, and I'm gonna have to sell them at less than what I bought them. And what I'll probably do, I'll probably just sell them to these gun stores for less than I bought them. It's not worth it. Although sometimes some of these hood boogers do make me second guess that. Can I ask you something off topic? Yes, you can. No problem. Miss Neal says, yeah, but a house divided will fall and crumble. Yeah, that's true. So bad for the people, good for those in power. Princess Lee says, what do you think about today's parenting and today's kids? Well, that could be a whole topic in itself. Um, I'm going to generalize a little bit because otherwise we'll be just doing nuance all day. But so if I'm going to generalize a bit, I'm going to say that a lot of parents, and most of these parents are around my age, they're Gen Xers. For some reason, Gen X is being the last, well, not the last. I think some of the older millennials fall into this camp too. But for older millennials and Gen X, they were the last generations of people who went outside whenever were allowed to make mistakes, um, weren't weren't constantly treated as fragile. For them, the way they treat their kids is weird. Like they're they're Gen Z or Gen Alpha um, kids because the newest generation is Generation Alpha. Um, for these kids are so soft and entitled. It's crazy. And they're raised by the last generation of kids who were like not like they were given free reign to just do whatever. It's weird that they have switched to doing the exact opposite with their own kids. Um, yeah, I might do a stream on that. Miss Nita. But yeah, I think this helicopter parenting today, or this whole thing about worrying about what kids think and feel, is is not very productive. Like you're not supposed to be the kid's friend. You're not supposed to try to reason with kids. Kids are stupid, and I don't mean like kids are stupid like they're all. I mean relative to adults who are completely cognitively developed. These children don't have the capacity to make good decisions for themselves, which is why you shouldn't be allowing them to cut their pee off because they feel they're a girl. But that's a whole different subject. But anyway, um, the point being is they're sitting there trying to reason with these kids as if they are adults and can make sound decisions. They cannot. It's up to you as an adult to make good decisions. If they don't want like here's another example from my personal life. Like we're all sitting around Thanksgiving dinner, eating Thanksgiving, but my nephew doesn't want that food, so he gets McDonald's or hot dogs or something like that to eat while we're all eating Thanksgiving. You know what we would have did when we were younger? Oh, I guess you're not eating. There's no I'm gonna fix you some hot dogs while everyone else sitting here eating Thanksgiving dinner or eating Christmas dinner. Oh, you don't want what we're having? Okay, well, I guess you're not eating. That's how we were done when we were younger. Gonna sit there and have a whole separate meal while someone else had to cook for like had to slave around in the kitchen for like 12 hours, but you don't like it, so you need hot dogs or something. No, that's crazy. Or these kids are far behind in academics than most other westernized nations like UK, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, even in China. Like we're behind all of them academically. Finland, Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden. But these kids can name 58 different genders. But the hell if they can do arithmetic, or they can spout trippy red. They can talk about trippy red or little baby. They can quote all their rap songs, but can barely but can rarely write a functional paper like a paragraph. So don't even get me on a tirade about today's parents and kids. I will be on this forever. That'll be a topic for another day. Uh, Miss Nia says snowflakes on the weather forecast. Princess Lady says, for example, I saw a kid a few weeks ago. His iPad died. He had an absolute tantrum. He started swearing at his mom, slapping her, and spat on her, and she was encouraging it, laughing. Wow. Already, so I'm going to stereotype, but here's the thing: stereotypes exist for a reason. Stereotypes are just facts that are falsely used to cover everybody. But yeah, guarantee that mom was white because if I did that as a kid to my mom, I'd have been knocked back across the other side of the wall. That I wish, man. No, ain't no way. I wouldn't even do that today. Now, Miss Neal says, "Princess, these kids are already hooked on that dopamine stream and not taught boundaries." Which is another reason why I've told people don't people. So someone asked me some advice a few days ago about like with like kids or whatever, and I said, "Here's a random piece of advice." I said, "Don't let kids under 6 have their own devices. They shouldn't be using tablets. They shouldn't be using phones. They shouldn't be glued to the TV or to video games. Shouldn't be watching shouldn't be watching these little 24-hour live streamers like on Twitch, like that idiot Kai Sanat and some of those other people, because being tethered to that digital device while their mind is still in the process of actually wiring itself at that age will cause them huge intellectual problems later on, particularly with attention and focus. So no wonder that kid is already halfway effed up. Princess Lady said, "My mom said eat what's cooked." He's thankful or go to bed hungry. I ain't cooking no other dish. Completely agree. If if my wife was cooking all day long, and our kids say, "Well, I don't want to eat that. I want some Jolly Bees. I want some McDonald's." I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I guess you're not eating. Once that hunger kick in, he'll eat. If not, well, that stomach gonna be tight for the night. uh, Princess Lady says, "My niece and nephew eat what's cooked. Only on a Sunday will I not cook, and they can eat whatever that they want within reason." I'm, all right, everybody, we going to Princess Lady house for dinner. Miss Princess Lady said, "I would have backhanded him if he ever spoke to her in such a manner." Wait, Miss Needle says 6 is way too young, man. Yeah, like for me, Miss Needle, like my kid is not gonna have a tablet or a phone until they're like at least 13, at least, because there's no reason they need one. Because people always say now, well, what if the kid needs to get in touch because of an emergency? So what about kids way before we had cell phones and internet? So were all these kids in danger, in mortal danger in public schools before the advent of self smartphones and tablets? It's getting to a point now, like here in Baltimore, they're starting to ban cell phones in schools, which they should have done a long time ago. Princess Lady said, "I had my first Nokia brick phone at 14. I had to do chores for credit." Yeah, like if my kid does need to have a phone for a particular reason, then I'm just gonna give them that for that time period. They're not gonna just have a phone just to have a phone just to say, well, all my friends have smartphones, so your friends don't live here. But yeah, if they need a phone for a specific purpose, like I'm going to be gone, so I need them to be able to reach me for whatever reason, then I'm gonna just buy them one of them little burner phones from like Walmart or Target or 7-Eleven, where you can get them one of those little track phones, and they can use it for that purpose. I'll load it. You can load it with X amount of time and data on, like X amount of data and voice on it, and then once they no longer need it, take it back from them. Missing this is, I mean, you can use your digital device for good too, but most kids won't. I love researching all sorts of knowledge. When I was a kid, sure, games too, but grew up with very limited TV time and more outside. So I had a lot of TV time, but again, I was a nerdy kid, so I was able to balance it, whereas another kid may not have balanced the time like I did. Like I divided my time between being outside. Like our parent, it's funny is our parents, like baby boomer parents, used to always say that Gen X kids weren't outside long enough because we always wanted to play video games and watch TV. Yet we were still outside a lot. I used to ride my bike everywhere. I used to stay out almost all day long. Well, maybe I wasn't physically outside, but I would go outside and go to friends' houses and we would play video games and watch wrestling and stuff like that. Or sometimes we would play sports. But I was out the house. But when I was in the house, even if I were watching TV, I would often be like reading or playing video games or playing on my computer. And back then, we didn't have the web on our computers, and most people didn't. Internet existed back in the 80s and 90s, but there was no World Wide Web at the time. So the only thing you could use the internet for, if you had it, was either to be in those old use usernet groups or email. That was the only thing you could do on the internet before 1994 was the usernet groups and email. And we didn't have internet, so the only thing I could do on my computer was either play like my little math and grammar software programs or stuff like the Oregon Trail or Where in the World is Carmen San Diego, or I had a full of programs and I could learn how to code. That's about it. Otherwise, like I said, I was playing with my toys, reading books. I had two sets of encyclopedias that I read through. I used to read so many books. Like we would go, I would end up going like almost every 2 weeks to Pizza Hut to get my little personal pan pizza that came every time you read 4 books. Princess says my nephew is 4. He likes his veggies and smoothies. Miss Nia says good for the nephew. It's actually so important to give kids healthy foods and put the right base down. It can literally ruin lives when kids grow up on junk foods raised by phone and TV and not humans. Again, I could go into so much personal, deep family stuff. You, but I'm done for that. I'm not going to keep putting them out there right now. Miss Nia says, "Oh, I remember the good old Nokia bricks. Had one myself. Man, those things are still working today. Those things are good like weapons." You saying playing Snake? That's pretty much you only play like the only thing you could pretty much do is play Snake or Solitaire. I still don't really know how to play Snake. Miss Neal said ruined attention spans and mass equals more docile, dumbed down people, mindless consumption in the worst case um, of information or anything really. So Princess says my nephew loves reading. He likes books and will sit by himself and read well. Try and read. That's cool. Cause yeah, I didn't learn how to read until I was like almost 7, and my mom was mad because she's like, I'll put him through, because she was mad that she put me in private school for like, she sent me to like an expensive like pre-K and kindergarten school, so that by the first grade she was mad that I wasn't already reading, but I quickly caught on within the first grade. I made up for it expeditiously by the time I turned 7. Miss Neal says, "Oh, solitaire is fun." Miss Neal says she was mad slapping the letters into you with that fan behind you on the wall. No, this is my grandmother, so I don't know where she got that. I might ask her if she remembers. Like, why ain't that kid learning faster? No, she wasn't mad at me. She was mad at the school because she was mad. She took me. There was this private school called Chambers in Baltimore, and I guess it was an expensive place. And she was mad that coming out of there, I wasn't already at a functional reading level for my age. But like I said, I made up for that within a year. She said, "Just kidding." I know. She's like, "And slap B. What's the letter say again?" No, I've gotten slapped, but not for that. But that's a whole different story. But let me circle it back to my original subject because Justin, I don't. Can you guys see how many viewers are here? Because usually when it's showing like 3 dots, that's mean it's usually like only 2 or 3 people. And Princess Lady and Miss Nita, we gotta make you guys we gotta make you ladies members so you can see my members only videos. Cause I did another one today, Miss Nita. So this one was me doing as many push-ups as possible. So um, I I'm not gonna reveal how many I did, but it was a good amount, but not as many as I wanted. But at the time I did it, I had literally just eaten. So I'm actually getting hungry again, but I need to actually go run. I was supposed to go to the gym and do some cardio, but I was gonna do my road work and then do the gym cardio because they're not the same. Like doing my road work is almost tantamount to religion to me, whereas this gym is more supplemental, especially the treadmills. I hate treadmills. I feel like I'm a gerbil on a wheel, but I'm not packed like a gerbil. I'm packed like an elephant. But just in case, because I hope people be like, oh yeah. But anyway, she said I'll go to bed soon. It's very late. Won't make the other stream. Oh no, no, that was earlier. Um, that was something I did earlier, and it was like 7 minutes long. Pause. But Miss Neal says, "Oh, treadmills become dreadmills." So it's not as bad in the gym because at least you got all these TVs and stuff. But I need some wireless earbuds now for my phone because I take my when I go to the gym, I take my new phone. Whereas when I do my road work here and my martial arts, I use my old phones, so I don't need wireless earbuds for that. That and the gym we often go to, sometimes the air isn't as hot. The air isn't as high as I want it to be. I like it crispy when I go to the gym because you're gonna sweat and get hot, and all these other people are exuding body heat and perspiring. So the heat needs to be. I mean, the AC needs to be pumping. Like at least it was yesterday when we were there. The AC was pumping for the last 2 days actually. But I think they had more to do with the fact that it's been cooler here in Baltimore for the last 3 days. Um, Miss Neal says not mentally engaging. The air is bad. Running outside is much cooler. Yeah. No, it's just road work is better. Like you get to change the tempo of your how you run. You don't have to. But when you're in a treadmill, you gotta readjust the settings so that you can go faster, or you can go up an incline, or you can go. It's just annoying. It's a crispy breeze. You gotta bring some of the Cleopatra fan club ladies fanning air around the gym. That's what I got you for, Miss Needle. Bring a personal AC unit. I don't personal AC. Nah, to the gym. Plus, I'm not gonna be like one of those weirdos in Planet Fitness. I don't know if you've heard of Planet Fitness here in America, but if you haven't, check out some of their YouTube videos. People be doing some crazy stuff, and I'll be seeing crazy stuff at our gym. One guy was sitting here like shadow boxing once. He damn near knocked out a few people because he see them, but he's in a walkway where people are trying to get by, and he's sitting there shadow boxing with a hoodie on, listening to music, scaring people because he's damn near about to like hit punch someone. He got in my way a few times, and I was so tempted to just do a Thai sweep, which I'll have to demonstrate that to you guys another day, show you what that looks like doing a Thai leg sweep. I was so about to do that just to put him on his ass and be like, get out of my fucking way. But I was nice. But you had another guy who was using the lat cable pulls. Instead of using the lat cable pulls as they should be done, this dummy put his foot in it and was doing roundhouse kicks with them. Another guy, he's sitting there shadow boxing in the mirror next to us where we're at the weight station. I guess he called himself doing knee strikes. He looked like a fat tuk driver sitting there doing Muay Thai. Oh, you said you've read some crazy Planet Fitness stories. Yeah, yeah. So you already know. Is it like a super chill breeze coming from that one treadmill? Do you mean like those little fans you can set up? Because those, if they're powerful enough, like usually the cheap ones, they don't blow enough air. Pause, but they don't. But they don't give out enough air, um, unless you've seen some really good ones that push out a lot of push out a lot of air. Oh, you've heard of Planet Fitness too, Princess Lady? So dang, so that's funny because you're in the UK and she's in Germany, and you both heard of like all the common jokes about Planet Fitness. Oh, by the way, I have done a video of me at Planet Fitness too. It's just me doing push-ups, one arm push-ups at Planet Fitness, and I did this at the end of my workout. So I had some trolls talking about, this looks like a person working out at Planet Fitness. And I'm like, dude, I'm at the end of my workout. Like I literally just worked out an hour and a half doing all upper body, and then I'm doing push one arm push ups. If anything, if it's like if anything, you should be saying kudos to you that you can still do calisthenics after doing an hour and a half of weight routines. But someone wants to say, "Oh, you look like someone that works out at Planet Fitness." Like, dude, I've just worked out an hour and a half, and now I'm doing one arm push ups. Give me some grace here. Plus, I was like, you can't beat me. So he said, no, a full AC unit mounted on just your treadmill. Yeah, that might be too much to bring into a gym, though. That sounds like that's too much. Like that's something better for like a home fitness gym. I didn't finish my coffee yet. Plus, it's electrolytes at the bottom, so it's like sweet at the bottom. Pause. But we're all going to Princess Lady house for dinner, guys. By the way, Miss Needle, can you see how many people are currently active in the chat? I'm guessing like two, like with the three of us. Because I know you're about to go two. So I was right. Yep. Because the two is just you two, not including me. So I think the conversation fizzled out. That's all right. I'm gonna do it another day. I already found out that that's the sweet spot is Saturday is no Sunday afternoon. That's Sunday morning, late morning, early afternoon. That's the sweet spot. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm guess Princess Lady. Do you have to go as well? Um, but Miss Nita, when you go, hit me up on IG real quick if you haven't already. I haven't checked my IG, but if you haven't, hit me up on there before you go to bed. All right. I'm going to end this. But for everyone watching this on replay, guys, I know I didn't get into as much as I wanted to because I really wanted to lean into this and make this a smoke session if I had to battle people about this. But all the people who usually give me a lot of flack about not being a Democrat and not supporting Harris weren't in this chat today. That's cool, but I don't want them coming to my other topics another day and saying and trying to give me their opinions. They had their chance. This was their chance. And they can watch this on replay once this is uploaded and broadcasted and leave their comments or criticisms, and then we can get into it in the comment section. And then if it's fruitful, then we can do another live stream on it. But I'm gonna end it here. And again, I'm gonna recap for what I was saying earlier is that for my part, I think that the problems of black communities nowadays, and we're not talking about in the past, yes, we can acknowledge slavery and Jim Crow, redlining, um, white supremacy, white supremacy, and all that sort of stuff from the past. But currently, it's our leaders in the community that are leading us astray. Whether these are church leaders or these political leaders, and all of them are all the political leaders who've been problematic have been pretty much Democratic. And I've named off a bunch of them: Mayor Tiffany Henyard in Dalton, Illinois, the former state's attorney, Maryland state's attorney Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore, the current nut job in New York City, that guy, the former Detroit mayor a few years back, the Prince George's County executive several years ago, like about 12 years ago, the back to the crackhead mayor Marion Barry back in the 90s, um, Obama, who became the so-called first black president, but did absolutely nothing for black people while he was in office because he said he wasn't just the black president; he was the American president. But they had no problem doing specialty policies for the LGBTQ and for other people, but nothing for the black people. Kamala Harris, who's now running as a black female president, um, but has no policies in place to help black people, but wants to be known as a black female now, not as Indian, made black people look stupid on a global scene when she decided to have Megan Thee Stallion twerking at a presidential rally. Like you're you're vying for the most powerful position, political position in the world, and you get a bitch out there twerking her ass, just reinforcing stereotypes of ratchet black women, and people are applauding you for it. And yes, this is the day 4 of the Democratic National Convention for her, where they anoint her because they didn't allow Democratic voters to have a primary and actually pick someone whom they wanted, because it wouldn't have been her because she didn't survive a primary back in 2020. She lost her own state, California, to Andrew Yang. I would rather voted for him. He should have ran for office again. And now JFK is and now we don't have JFK either because he's dropping out of the race, and he will be backing Donald Trump. So those are your choices, guys. I believe Cornell West might still be running. I'm not sure because the 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 mainstream media has done nothing to promote um, that man's campaign because it would have hurted Biden's chances, and now it would hurt Harris' chances of getting black votes because Cornel West is an actual black man, not to mention an accomplished philosopher and uh, Harvard professor. So, any case, if you guys want to come with the smoke, I'm with it. Go to the comment section, and like I said, if I get enough responses, we can do another stream on this because I really didn't get to go into it as I wanted to because people were worried about me talking about slavery and other irrelevant shit, and that's not my point. My point is talking about these fugazi black leaders. So I'm gonna end it on that, guys. Talk to you later. Thanks, members. Go check out some of those videos if you haven't already. You might enjoy them because well, for um, they're fitness related. So